right, everybody ready? Let's go ahead and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. We'll get started. Thank you. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we got a nice crowd. Okay, so hopefully everybody agrees the August weather has been incredible for the state of Indiana, right? So I kind of hate to see this one come to a close. Obviously, the kids are back in school, so I've talked to a lot of happy parents, not too many unhappy parents. And so with all that activity, our lake and certainly all the amenities across the community have quieted down a great deal, but we're ready to close out what's really been an overall great summer from an operational standpoint, and I think enjoyment from the community members with our annual Labor Day bash that will be action-packed again throughout the day as usual. It'll be the last Civic Club event for Steve and Denise Severveld before they move to Florida later in the year. So please stop by the event. Kevin, there's Kevin, you're there. I know you guys got a big deal planned. So I think everybody would agree that no Steve and Denise and the Civic Club, there's been just a flurry of activity the last 4 or 5 years. So everything's been organized and executed at a super high level. So whether you know Steve and Denise or not, if you get a chance to get to the Labor Day bash, have somebody point them out, I'm sure they'd appreciate a good word from all of you. So as we move into September, the board's focus with committee chairs and other key committee leaders, it will be to continue to stay focused on our 23 budget process that we kicked off last month with our second leadership council meeting. I know all of us were super thrilled with the attendance, lots of comments about learning about the budgets, how it works that people didn't know. And so we had much more collaboration early on than we typically have had without that meeting. So we're in good shape as we move into further budget planning and understanding the needs by committee and from key leaders. So our next month's meeting is set for September 21st at 7:30, and it'll be pretty prescriptive with a deep dive into our escrow items like roads, erosion control, and other long-term funding needs. And for those of you that don't understand the budget really well, there's a significant part of the budget that basically represents status quo from Hidden Valley. This is what it takes to run the community. Escrow becomes a little bit more of a challenge as prices are increasing, and take asphalt for roads as an example. We're getting more and more pressure on that escrow amount. So if there's going to be a roll up your sleeves and really understand what we're faced with going into 23 and beyond between inflation and rising cost, the next couple of months meetings will really highlight that. So I would encourage everybody, if you want to understand more about the budget, ask us questions, stay close to the minutes, and we'll be as open and transparent as we possibly can so everybody understands all the things that we're looking at in great detail. And then the last thing I would leave you with is, as we continue to think about our community as an organization combined with paid staff and volunteers, we're looking really hard with Dave's leadership at our current staffing. Is it enough? Do we have all the key areas covered? Should we do things differently? As we talk oftentimes month to month, this community continues to grow, not just in people, but things that we make available, the standards that we set for taking care of things. And we just want to make sure we continue to look at how we've got it staffed to make sure we're meeting everybody's needs. So again, please stay close to the planning with us as we wrap up the rest of the year and look to 2023 and beyond. Any questions on that? Okay. Treasurer's report. Jeff?
All right. Thanks, Scott.
Thank you.
Okay. For the financial position for the month of July 2022, the dollar figures I'm saying have been rounded off to the nearest dollar. Cash position on July 1st, 2022 was $593,219. Ending cash on July 31st, 2022, $984,660. Any questions on those numbers first? All right, thank you. The one of the items that we'll be discussing a little bit at the leadership next month, we'll be digging into the budget project request forms and budget project request procedures too. So I think it's pretty, like Scott was saying, it's pretty neat, the response that we got from that last one, very positive, and people have really looked in, had not realized some of the things that happened in the escrow. So I think this would be another dive into that. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Jeff. Pat?
984 days in this time of July 21 or something. Is that like normal, or are you alluding to earlier that we're doing it?
What's your question again?
Historically,
Yep.
June of like 21 or
Okay.
June of 20.
Yep.
How much do you have? What's our balance? Is that in a week?
Yeah, so
Oh, yeah.
go ahead if you got, I've got,
Yeah, go ahead.
we both have the answer. Go ahead. Feel free.
No, it's if you sit there and you look at the past multiple years and the figures, yeah, this is normal.
Yeah, and if Kyle was here,
We're about,
POA dues come in.
Sure, right.
yeah, and where Kyle reported at the leadership, we're a couple $100,000 under budget, but don't get overly comfortable with that simply because there's things that haven't been spoken for in the back half of the year, but it's certainly a good trend.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Pat, Secretary's report.
Could I have a motion to accept for discussion the July 2022 minutes? Thank you. In a second? Thank you, Ken.
Ken?
Are there any questions or concerns about the minutes as written?
Yeah, I think on Parks and Rec, Jim Connor did not give an update on the Bluebird Trail.
Okay, Amy, my recollection was that he did talk about the Bluebird Trail. That now he kind of talked about other general birding issues, but I do believe that he talked about the importance of the Bluebird Trail and why it was established, considering the diminishing number of bluebirds.
Yeah, there was mention of that in his conversation.
We can double check.
Yeah,
We'll double
what
check
we
the
can do,
minutes.
Amy, is we can vote to go ahead and accept them, but we can go back and listen to the audio record of the meeting to just make sure. Okay, all right, we will do that. So to my fellow board members, I'm just asking for a vote to accept with the caveat that I will go back and listen to the audio. All right, all in favor of accepting?
Aye.
Thank you all.
All right, very good. All right, golf course. Keep going, Rich. All right, so our cash position continues to plug along in that $350,000 range, which is really well aligned with last year. If you think about, there were some questions last year. Is COVID? It hasn't an impact. We get that. Is the traffic going to continue? Is the revenue going to continue? And it has. So we're very, very bullish on the golf course with that cash position. We continue to avoid that mortgage balance and have cut that in half. Next slide. And what I'm really pleased is just the progress. When we're making money at the golf course and we've been able to invest in equipment and invest in people to get it to where everybody wants it to be from a community and membership standpoint, now we can start investing back in. So if you haven't noticed, the cart path paving has started this week. And I think that was literally beginning of the week, the first stretch of pavement going down, and it looks great. So that'll be a nice shot in the arm for anybody that plays the golf course, because they were pretty bad. But I think the bigger piece is just the fact that they're self-funding that project, and the POA doesn't have to put money into it to make that happen. So that is clearly, from where we've been historically, a super, super positive trend. All right. I think that's it, right, Rich? On the golf course. All right. Mr. Wisman, all yours.
Stay up there for a minute.
Yes, I'll do that.
Paul, could you call our office if you come up there for just a minute? Paul, you can step over here with the president, please. I'd like to present Paul with this certificate. I was going to give you a gift certificate as well, but I didn't get a chance to get over there. So he will You have a little bit of monetary, now you need to get here where you get a picture.
Yo, Paul, turn it off.
For your many years of service, many years of service as the head of Lake Patrol, Paul was more than an employee. He was a personality on the lake as well, and he was well known for his candor and his stories. He promoted safety on the lake and was always ready to assist even after hours and after the summer season was over. If you notice on this certificate, it has a picture of Paul in his boat in the background there. So I'm going to leave you that. So thank you for all your years of service and leadership. You want to go on with your story?
Yeah, so David said, first of all, that you didn't get time to get your certificate, you take cash.
Yeah.
What do you think?
What do you do with cash?
So as I know, many people in the room have been around a long time. We've been here 22 years. And when it comes to lake patrol, this guy's about all I know. And what I would want to say to him personally that I'll say in front of the group, you helped raise my boys.
Yeah.
We spent a lot of time on the lake and we tried to explain to them that there's a protocol and a way to handle yourself. And they've had lots of conversations over the years. They're now in their 30s. They don't live anywhere close. One's in Colorado, one's in Chicago. And I want you to know they still ask about you.
Yeah.
So as they say, it takes a village to raise kids. And so it's not completely sad because this is the only time I've ever been kicked off the lake was by this guy. With a house full of company on the 4th of July. We had too many people in the boat, front of the boat. We were pulling a tuber and I hit a buoy by accident. He threw me off the lake. Like he wasn't even asking questions. So it was embarrassing, but it was a good learning because the boys were with us and they'll never forget it because they've never been in that kind of trouble. But you know, and the question I've always asked you is, what are you the most proud of? And you always say, you've kept the lake safe.
Yeah.
For 20 plus years. And it's not the easiest job in the world. But if you get around to other lakes, we have our complaints on this lake. Everybody sees it a little bit differently. This is the same place to go to raise a family. So thank you for hours and hours. And thanks for raising my voice with me.
Same thing. It was a lot of fun over those 19 years. I sure enjoyed every bit of it. And one of the things that made it nice is that gave me the idea that I could take care of it the way I wanted to. And in those 19 years, we only had one person who passed away, just one, and that on the lake, and who drowned on the beach at night. And we got all kind of people. I had life squads coming from all over the county to look for the teachers who were there were incredible. 6 or 7 lady teachers got together and they walked like this out to the ropes, turned around, came back in, and on the 3rd time going out, one of them touched her. It was really wonderful to see the help that we got from everybody on board. Yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it all. Now I'm going to go fishing and go to Florida a long time.
How about one more clap? Thank you so much. By the way, you did let me get back on the
Yes, your brother drove the boat, remember?
Paul,
Everybody learns. Congratulations. That's hilarious. Okay.
Thank you again, Paul. The office will be closed on Monday, Labor Day, September the 5th. I would like to request the board approve the annual deer call from October 1st through January 1st, 2023. We plan to pause the call the week of Thanksgiving, which would be November 21st through the 27th, and the week of Christmas, December 19th through the 25th. We were unable to conduct a flyover last year. That requires a little longer amount of snow than we were able to have. However, I've had secure over the last 8 months on deer activity, as well as several residents with anecdotal stories who confirm we still have a large number of deer in the area. The state of Indiana has also designated the area 1/2 mile on each side of US 50 throughout the county as a deer reduction zone. And although we're only able to hunt the area that actually is within that deer reduction zone, which is a very small part of our 77 acres, we're not planning to hunt there. It does indicate to us that there is still a large population of deer in the area. If I could ask for that vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Second? Ken? Second. Right, all in favor?
Aye.
Pat's a no, right?
I'm a no.
3-1.
Okay, thank you. Our security team, we have several of our security staff who have applied for special deputy status with the sheriff's office, and they're currently going through the testing process. It's a written test and a physical test that's required. We're waiting their approval. Under our roads and infrastructure management, we plan to complete our paving process on our project on Alpine Drive sometime in mid-September. We don't have exact dates yet from the contractor, but we spent the day yesterday marking the road as requested by the contractor with pink paint. So you've seen some pink lines coming up Alpine. And the contractor hopes to have this done within a few days. And once started, there will be some road closures on Alpine. We will try to keep that out in front of everyone, especially with our schools. Yes.
Back up one topic for a second. The test that the security guys are going through
Uh-huh.
would probably qualify them to be the deputies in Hidden Valley, is that the plan?
Yes. Especially at least
You know, 3 of them, would you say?
3 at this time that took testing. Okay. So if you look at the picture here, this is the pink paint. It's kind of hard to see in a picture, but coming up Alpine, this isn't far from the flags. You can tell that there is a dip, especially like, we're to the right side of this lane. Those are the areas we're concerned with. We're wanting to dig those out and take the base. And if you can move forward to the next one, Rich, this is some other work that we've had done before, and that's the kind of patching that you'll see on Alpine for this year. And then next year, the plan is to attempt to actually repave the road since we'll have a good base underneath of it. Any questions? Yes.
Yes, is there a plan to reinstall lane lines and center line?
Yes, on that part of Alpine, we would.
Because we noticed we cannot see the line
Yeah.
in the rain or at night.
Yep. And actually, our maintenance supervisor, we discussed that earlier this week of how we could find a better paint that would last longer, possibly have a little more fluorescence to it, things like that. So he's researching that.
So Dave, let me ask you a question. Just in the areas that are being patched or all of Alpine, the relining?
We would reline next year, the whole thing, but this year we would try to get that area that's patched with like a temporary type of.
So next year you do the entire.
Yeah, well, that would be part of the project next year, is they would line it.
This really hits home with the long-term budgeting that we talked about. This is probably the area that we're getting hit the hardest with the increase in cost. In a perfect world, we would have liked to be able to patch and pay more of it, but it's just cost prohibitive right now. So long term, that's something we really have to pay attention to, budget versus
I
needs.
can use a roller.
Yeah. No, I'm not talking about the
I
paint.
know.
I'm talking about the literal paving. And that's one of the things Dave and I talked about is, across the valley, is there an expectation when that patching takes place that Alpine's going to get completely repaved? So we've got a bit of a job to do to let folks know we're trying to get out from underneath bad patching and just throwing pavement on top of pavement and causing a bigger problem and trying to repair infrastructure before we pave. So hopefully everybody will,
Road.
excuse me?
All River Road.
Exactly.
Today.
Yeah, exactly. So please spread the word that we're trying to do it the right way. But I know there's as soon as we start patching, people are gonna ask, why aren't we paving the whole thing?
And these roads, the main roads of Alpine, Lakeview, Longview, Bellmead, those are a different structure than what you see back in the actual housing areas, back to small neighborhoods. So they're going to take a lot more to repave and everything. So this is definitely the large portion of what we have to do paving wise is what we have the next few years. This paving. Okay. An update on fiber optics. We've come up with some concerns early this week, especially if you lived over in the Longview area. It's a newer contractor that we're not really familiar with. So Rich and I are working with REMC and SEI Data and NRTC to try to see what's going on that's different. We've had some things the last couple of days that really been concerning. The contractors are committed to a restore as you go process, meaning that they're given work packets. I explained some of this last month, but the contractor is given a work packet. You go from this stretch to this stretch, and then what they were doing is they would just pass out these work packets, and they would just keep working. The same contractor is expected to do the restoration project. And before, they were just kind of doing this on their own. While the NRTC is now requiring them to restore as they go. So as they finish a packet, they have to go back and restore that packet before they're given the next one. So that it's going a little slower that way. You don't see as much of the operation kind of spread out as we were, especially at first. We think that going this way is going to slowing the process down possibly a little bit. At least we're going to have things restored, and it's not going to look like a war zone for such a long period. If you kind of want to look at an area on Matterhorn and Heather Court, that was the first area that work was done. That would be a good indication. It's not 100% yet. You'll still see some openings, but it's been pretty much restored in those areas. And there will be another part of that process where they come up and do the finishing touches. So kind of give you an idea of what you're looking forward to if you haven't been restored in your area yet. Any questions on that? Mm-hmm.
Seems like every day they're putting in that. What's that going to the actual, our water system or, that's like. All these patches that are going on, say 5 years down the road, all these patches start to think, we're hoping that they will, but any of that, what's gonna,
That's more of a BRUC question. They kept them.
well, I guess the patches are considered just about as good as the original. It's not ideal, but we also have an overall plan that's not rolled out to start replacing the lines, the water lines in general. So we're just making the best of it. They haven't got it on my side. Yeah, unfortunately, the lines aren't very well, and they don't follow the guidance. It's hard to explain. It's a big patch.
Yeah. Okay. We tested the emergency preparedness for the lake on July 30th at 3 p.m. And we felt like it was a successful drill of this plan. Interestingly enough, just before we had already decided to do this, but before the actual test, we had somewhat of an emergency situation that could have at the marina that could have required us to actually shut the lake down had the person been more injured. Fortunately, she wasn't injured badly in that case where we had to shut down the lake. But we felt pretty confident in our response. Everyone was very good about stopping when we put the yellow light out, when we sent out the emergency message. So we appreciate everyone's participation in the activity. And it gave us a chance to actually observe what would happen if we had this emergency situation. Also wanted to report on a small lake management. This is a picture in Crystal Lake, and what you're seeing is an island, a float object that a combination of our Woodlands people and the people that live in the Crystal Lake area have been working on to try to help manage the lake a little better. These are like aquatic plants that will help that environment, help to it's a little more scientific than I'm used to dealing with, so forgive me for that part. But Linda Hartman could explain this pretty much in detail. But the big thing, there's actually an article in the current Echoes that talks about this, that gives you details. And this is the kind of work that we're seeing a lot of neighborhoods kind of accomplish together, kind of banding together and kind of, what can we do? Another thing that this group did, we had a need to find out the depth of the lake to see if we needed to do dredging, at least in some parts of it. And it would have taken our maintenance team a long time to kind of done with the schedule that they've got. It was kind of low priority. And the residents here decided to do this on their own. With discussion of how you do it and all that kind of a thing. And they came together and they have that mapped out for us. And it gives us the lake depth across the lake. They're comfortable with those depths. And they kind of fit into this whole scheme of things. So it's kind of, it's neat to see people kind of take ownership of their backyard here in this case, instead of, just having a complaint about, the way things are, what can we do to make a difference? So these are the kind of projects that we kind of want to promote as much as we can and have that interaction with the community. These people are not necessarily all committee members or volunteering in that way, but they can volunteer in different ways that still are productive. So we wanted to thank those people for their involvement. Any questions? Okay, that's all I have. Thank you. Yes.
Julie Mason, 2224. I just had a question when you were talking about the deer. Earlier this week, some friends of mine who live in a rural part of Harrison had a deer in their yard, that one that they recognize, as it's there quite a bit, came down with that zombie deer disease and ended up dying in their yard. And then the next day or two, I heard on the news in Cincinnati on the radio, they were saying if you're seeing any signs of that, to report it to like the DNR. If we see that in any of our deers here in Hidden Valley, we would contact you? Or
Yeah, that would.
So, and
That would be
my
appropriate.
second question would be, have you seen any of that in our deer population?
We haven't had any reports that I'm aware of. That's normally something that we would get, our security would deal with, and we haven't gotten any reports yet. And I'm just kind of new to hearing about this myself. I heard that story this morning as well.
Franklin County is said that they've got it.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what zombie is. EHD is what's being written about. I don't know if they're one and the same. I was a part of
same thing.
I was a part of a removal off of St. Petersburg this weekend.
Yeah.
The one benefit that we have, it typically happens in August and September. And if you don't know anything about it, you can kind of keep an eye on it. High heat combined with drought is the worst possible scenario. Luckily, we've had rain that they have not had there, because I helped a friend remove one. And what happens is midges develop on the water, and they come to water, they get bit, and we lose them pretty quick, like 2 weeks later,
Yeah.
and they wind up dying of a high fever. So I saw it firsthand. I think so far we're fortunate. We've had all the rain that we have. We don't have that drought condition and stagnant water. But yeah, definitely keep an eye on it because the folks in Franklin County that have been affected, I talked to 5 different farmers in the last week. They've lost 15 to 25 deer.
Yeah, they died in 36 hours.
Happens really quick. So
Yeah, I mean, it might be
yeah,
worth
so we'll see.
letting people know. We do have a pretty, we have a deer population that runs certain tracks so people, you know,
Yeah.
who have them running their yards often, probably would maybe want to keep an eye on watching it.
Yeah,
how they're
yeah,
acting.
and they'll typically will pass by water, either a creek bottom or a pond or a lake. So
Yeah.
Did you have additional questions?
Yep.
You got it. George, go ahead.
George, what they do, David, is it possible to publish the symptoms of this disease?
Yeah,
So we can be watching for it?
it's kind of new to me. I haven't done any kind of research, but as soon as I get something together.
The deer population is extensive in our area, but they are very, very emaciated deer. Very stunted, very thin, very weak looking deer, so I hope that isn't what.
No, they say they actually appear almost like they're like a zombie. They
They're like-
kind of
they're-
figure out eventually, they start not being able to move very well and they end up laying on the ground.
Yeah, they're lethargic. That's the first thing. I've got a whole article that I could share with Dave, but the first thing you'll notice is lethargic and abnormal behavior. I'm not.
On the side.
That's just a change of coat.
Okay.
Yeah, that's going from summer to fall coat. That's what's going on right now.
Can we get this published in the echoes for people to watch?
Yeah, as soon as I get something together.
Actually, George, it might make sense to put it on our website and or a listserv, only because the next echoes will not be out until the end of September, where the peak season for this problem is past.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, David. Mr. Heights, there you are. Architecture.
Yeah.
We need to keep it moving, Phil. So we gotta play some catch up on time. 90 minutes or less.
Okay. I'm standing in for Tom Cross this month. And we have to get some performance bonds returned. To make it brief, all these people are all up to date on fees and so on, so the returning of the money should be no problem at all. First one is lot 58, which is Trish and Mike Anthony. That's 868 Beechwood Circle, and their bond amount is $500. Second one is Rebecca McKean, lot 2308. That address is 2572 Everett Court, and that bond amount is $2,000. Third one on the list is Richard Schiller, a $500 bond, lot 1892H at 1612 Aqua Vista Drive. Then we have a Sam R. Ulrich, I guess it is. I hope that's correct. That's lot 1861, bond amount $500, and that's at 1491 Aqua Vista. And then the last one I have on the list here is Julie Steinmetz, 2509H, and that's at 1732 Cove Circle West, and the bond amount is $2,000.
Okay, so can I have a motion and a second to approve
I'll
as
make the
as
second.
read it and then vote at the same time? So first and second, got it,
Mhm.
Pat? Yep, all in
Yep.
favor?
Aye.
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 All right, 4-0, all set.
Okay, then we have a change in the bylaws that we are requesting. This will be the first reading for that. And that's section 4-11-7C, which currently reads, the primary driveway between street and garage and or house, all new construction must be surfaced with a suitable hard surface material, i.e. blacktop, concrete, pavers, etc. We're just changing the tail end of that. All the rest of it is word for word identical to that's parenthetical part. The change we are proposing is
blacktop, concrete, or pavers, drop that cetera off there. But it's just too ambiguous. Wide open for who knows what. And did you want to address that request for variance?
Yeah, let's open up any questions on this first read from the audience first.
I'll do it first and we can.
Second.
Second.
Favor?
You know,
Yeah. I know. Good. Okay. Go ahead and open it up for
Okay,
conversation,
yeah,
please.
this was addressed once before and then shelved. And it was a request for approval for an additional 248 square feet at square foot variance for concrete parking pad on the property of Gary and Christy Dole, which is lot 3094 at 1463 Green Lawn Way. And we had quite a bit of problems here. Gentlemen owning the property there put in a rather large parking pad and exceeds the limits in the bylaws. And he did it knowingly and without a permit. And we asked him, there was also a fine levy and we requested he remove the excess material. At this point, the architecture committee does not recommend any such. And there's also, make sure that the original fine levy was followed.
We've already been here in March.
I know.
And the fine, we went for the fine and
Right,
judicial committee said that they would hold off until everything was set.
So I want to, any other comment? I want to have Ken speak to this because he took the time with the committee and actually went to the property and viewed it. So I'll have him address, but any other questions from the audience?
I do, regarding parking pads. Are boats allowed to be in trailers on the parking pads? And up near us on Lakeview, there's 2 boats and a trailer
Okay, let's
parked in a guy's yard.
do this. Let's
There's an ordinance, I believe.
yeah. Can we save that for new business? That's a separate issue. So when we
I
get,
thought it was part of architectural pads, it's not gonna be pads.
but we're addressing this specific issue first. Yeah,
That's fine.
but please let's come back to it because I do want to address that. Thank you. You guys have anything more you want to share?
No, I mean, yeah, I don't like, he kind of said, well, let's go. I went to I did forward without a permit. I misread the rule that said anything under 8 inches doesn't need to be. If I would have read down a little farther, it does say parking pads, right? It's not my fault. As soon as they found out about it, I went, and I was told by 2 people on our architecture committee, if I filed for a variance, it would be approved. Then I would go through and everything would be fine. I would just have to go through I'd be fine, and I'd have to jump through the hoops of variances, and I'm like, that's fine. I'll admit, I made the mistake. I did it without approval because I didn't understand. All right, I misread the rule. And then I did miss the variance.
Yep.
We talked about this, I missed the variance by 2 days. That 2 deaths in the family, my dad was in the hospital 8 times in 3 months. And I missed the variance by 2 days and got fined $500. And I'm okay, I mean, that's what it is, what it is.
So you guys don't need to go through this again. We've reviewed it. I want Ken to go ahead and address his understanding and the recommendation he brought back to the board, and then we're going to go ahead and make a motion to vote on approval or not approval of the pad, and then approval or not approval of the fine. We'll handle those 2 separately. But Ken, if you could go ahead and address what you brought back to the board, that would be great.
What I brought back to the board, myself and Tom Cross, the architectural committee chairman, we went out and we looked at the pad. This is out at your house, and what we saw, I mean, it is professionally done. It's not crappy or rickety or anything like that. A little on the large side, but upon looking at it, my recommendation coming back to the board was to go on and approve the variance at this time, but also to keep the fine levied against you for for doing it without a permit. So that's where I stood on. And that's what I brought back to the board.
You guys have anything else you want to say? Because we're going to go ahead
How much was the fine?
and 500. Yeah, that amount. 500 total. Yeah. Yeah. You guys have any other comments before we go ahead and vote? Okay, so I'd like to have a motion and a second and a vote for approving the variance. Jeff first,
I'll second.
second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Pat?
I vote on
And that the variance is approved. The second piece will be to motion in a second to uphold the fine for violating the rules in terms of approval in advance. So I'm looking for a first and a
I'll
second.
make a motion.
Ken's a first, second Jeff, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So we will uphold the fine, but you've got your variance on the driveway. Yeah.
Right.
Yep. Okay.
I'd like to remind the board that there are plot plans here,
Yep.
since the variance has
Yep.
been approved, that all board members have to sign.
Yep.
Okay. Mhm.
All right, thank you, Sarah.
Thanks.
The other thing that I want to kind of share, we're having lots of conversations on this, and we've asked Ken in his role with architecture, but bigger picture, we're going to see more and more activity across architecture. Tear downs of homes, remodels, right? You're already seeing that going on. So it's an opportunity for us to go back and look at all the rules and say it's 2022. Do they represent today what we want long term? Because before all this activity continues, there's some areas that seem to be pretty tight. There's some areas that seem to be problematic, and we want to make sure that we're comfortable long term with where that's at. So Ken's going to lead that with Tom, and also relying on Dave Hafner, who spent a lot of time on the architecture side. Are we where we need to be? We have 2 meetings a month in architecture. There's no other committee that meets twice, and we have a full-time staff member that's Dave's assistant that was supposed to have a broad perspective to help Dave manage a community that spends 60 to 70% of her time on architecture. So it's a needed piece to maintain standards in the community. But when you start looking at that, you go, why are we spending so much time? Is it on the right areas? Are there areas we can help the architecture committee? I mean, they're in a situation, they're kind of hamstrung with black and white. So it's a difficult situation when we approve a variance because it gets into the gray. They can't. And so we just want to look at that moving forward and saying, are we where we need to be and are we focused on the right stuff? So I just want to share that. All right. Any other questions on that approval? Yes?
Just on what you were just saying, Julie Mason, lot 2224. If changes are made, so you look at that and decide that some changes need to be made, what is the process for that? Do they have to bring that here to say, we're gonna make these changes?
Yep.
Is that how that process will go?
Yep.
So
First and
we will
second
see
reading.
that before things are.
No, that would be a bylaw change. It would be 2 readings at back-to-back meetings.
Okay.
And there may be none, but
Right.
we've got to look at how we're spending budget and how staff positions and volunteer positions are spending their time. And there's certain things that are black and white. There's some that aren't. And in a community where it's a hodgepodge and it wasn't perfectly planned, you know, that thought process around some things you need to use your eye and not use what's in writing to determine what's appropriate. So nothing may change. I'm not making any commitment either way, but Ken's fresh into the group, and I feel sorry for the architecture guys because they can only do so much, and they did exactly what they should have done in this scenario. So that's where we're at. All right. Yeah, thanks, Larry.
I'm representing Kyle Packer, the Finance Committee Charities on the West Coast tonight, so I just have a couple of quick items. I'd like to report that the July financials for both the POA and the golf course have been reviewed and approved at the committee level. We're right in the middle of the next item is we're right in the middle of the 2023 budget process with both the POA staff and board. And lastly, as Scott mentioned earlier, we had a meeting with the Leadership Council on Monday, the 15th, with the board and all the committee chairs to further educate on the financials of the POA in the budget process. And it was good discussion there. And as Scott mentioned, there's another follow-on meeting on the 21st scheduled to continue that budget process. So,
All right, thank you. Any questions on that? Before we keep
We
moving.
need to approve the funding.
Yeah,
we need to
yeah.
approve it
Yeah,
First.
first,
I'll second.
we got 2 seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's 4, Pat.
Yeah, I can put in here whatever I want.
All right, Dave, you're speaking for Mr. Fox on Lakes.
Eric Fox was a late scratch, so he asked me to cover for him. Basically on Lakes, we already talked about the emergency drill, and we talked about the Small Lakes Task Force. They've been working on vegetative islands, on aerator checks, siltation mitigation, and invasive species removal. The Lakes Committee's also been working the Indian Lakes Watershed Project on their use of an eco harvester and a potential site visit. Well, these docks are still reevaluating the cost to repair and replace these ourselves. One of the committee members is working on that. Under safety, entering and exiting the idle zone, it has been an issue. Please speed up only after passing in the high speed, and please slow down before passing the idle zones. So as you're coming into an idle zone, kind of right at the line, start slowing down. You should be slowing down as you enter into that idle zone. Fish and Game Club tournament will be held at our golf course on the 17th of September. Any questions? Yes.
What's the current situation with the wake boats?
Wake boats.
That are smashing the people who are actually on the lake or not?
Yeah, at this point, they're working on some technology to try to identify the wake that'll help our enforcement. We're working with our lake patrol to better enforce those situations. As far, there's still study of the actual damage. So you're reporting that you're having damage to your docks, or?
Well, not visible at the moment. It's beating the heck out of it.
Yes.
It's been a problem, I understand, Mr. Fox. You told me about it. You know, apparently the Lake Patrol has the
Pretty good show.
authority to go to
Yeah. That's for not just wake boats, it's for the wake activity.
It's dangerous for little kids trying to swim in front of your dock. Very, very dangerous. They can't even float in front of your own dock.
You're on the main, are you on the main lake?
Stuff is storming in there.
Are you on the main lake?
Yeah.
And it's directly tied to wake boats, wake boats is
Yeah.
what you're saying? Okay.
It's dangerous for the little kids. This is supposed to be a community where kids and grandkids can enjoy themselves at a couple feet off their dock, but they're getting crashed. It's a problem. And I know it's been addressed, but it needs to continue to be addressed.
My wife and I are both kayakers. And I came from Dayton, Ohio, where we had a lake called Eastwood Lake on the east side of the state. And that lake was divided on a weekly basis. One day was supposed to be for non-powered boats, another 4 days, and the weekends were for powered boats. I just wondered if there was a time schedule that kayakers could get here. We just gave our big kayak, a double kayak, to our daughter, who's down in North Carolina, because we couldn't use it here. We had started out with a canoe with outriggers on it. We couldn't use it here because of the wake and the boat's gone by. And we just wondered if there was one morning during the week, people are at work, as a matter of course, usually on Monday or Tuesday. And if we could get a chance to get our kayaks out on the lake and use them, we'd love that, to have, maybe from 8 AM to 12 noon or something, to have time to get kayaks out on the lake without any interruption, and go around the lake. People can see the houses and see what's going on.
I can pass that on to Eric for his.
I would appreciate that.
You are aware it's no wake before 9 AM.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's bit, when we had the canoe with the outrigger, to be out there and all of a sudden everybody's coming out, boy, you start rocking, so we finally had to give that up.
We usually go along, you know.
We usually go on the edge.
Shore, and then that's
Yeah.
where the.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Oh, you ain't any? You're good. You're good. We're in good shape.
I don't have a whole lot. I should have just had Dave read it. Okay. The trails coming along nicely. John will be out there Saturday at 9 AM. If anybody would like to come help, if you have a rake, a weed eater. I know Cardinal Trail is done, Goldfinch is done. Our Barred Owl is done, and we're working on Wood Duck right now. We had a lot of volunteers come and build a bridge, which was super exciting. And we're getting some more directional signs put up. And then next, I think they're gonna finish Wood Duck Saturday and then move over to Bluebird, which is the only trail on this side of the park. What else did I have for John? And we're going to order, or did we order the big sign for the map, the main map? And what that'll do is that'll have a QR code on there. You can scan that and it'll show you the map of all the trails. That way you don't have to have something to carry, and you should have your cell phone with you anyway if you're out there. So, and that'll save us a lot of money in paper, printing, all that stuff, right? The pool. Thank you, Rich. We will put out, I will ask Rich if he could put out the new September hours for the pool. There will still be 11 to noon lap swim, exercise swim, and then 4 to 6 Monday through Friday, and 11 to 6 on the weekends. That 11 to 12 being your lap swim, and then so 12 to 6 for the weekend on the pool. The plan is to close the pool on September 24th, and I would like the board's approval if we could have a puppy pool day on that day. This will only happen when we replace the liner, of course, so I don't think this has ever been done. And if with your approval, I think everybody kind of requests to do this, let the dogs have a puppy day, and we just couldn't with the liner. But since we're getting a new liner in October, I wanted to see if you guys would approve that. Puppy pool day.
Puppy pool day.
Bring your dog. Should they do it all the time, Scott? I see how you're looking.
No, don't look at me. I'm just trying to absorb. I've never heard this come up and so here we are, puppy pool day
Yeah,
now.
puppy pool day.
No, actually, the Lawrenceburg Municipal Pool used to do it every year at the end, and it was a fundraiser for paws. You had to pay to get in.
Oh, you did have,
And
well, I
I
do
did.
learn it.
Yeah, my dog went in, took my cell phone with her, so
Yeah.
it was a bittersweet memory
It
for
is
me, but
pretty,
it was fun.
it's common for a lot of pools to do it before they close the pool for the season.
Yeah,
You know,
you
but
don't
we
want-
couldn't ever do that because of the liner.
right.
So now that we're getting a new one,
What's the date you're talking
the
about?
date is September 24th. And we were looking for that to be the last day.
I would love to open this up to the audience. Just so I can,
Right here, first and second, go up over.
George had his hand up first.
24/18/82, I believe the bylaw prohibited fence in the pool, so whatever the decision the board has, but we might want to check on the status of it.
Okay, thank you.
Can I say something to what George said?
Sure.
And I'm not gonna assume, but I would think that that law in there would mean, to me, if I'm reading that law, when I go up to the pool every day, I can't bring my dog.
And also because it could damage.
Could damage the pool,
Have to worry about
correct.
replacing the
Correct,
liner.
but since we are replacing that liner, we would ask that you guys maybe, I mean, it's up to you.
Anybody else would be in there but the dog goes.
Yeah, well, I mean, anybody could go and get in there. I mean, it's
chaos
not,
in there.
you know, it's
But
just
it's fun.
not strictly canines, I guess. They can get in the water. I mean, you swim in the lake. There's a lot worse in that lake. than out here. I'm just
I don't know if
saying.
there is or not.
Well, I've heard stories. I've heard stories, so.
If you start a precedent of doing it this year.
Well, the only reason is we're getting a new liner. So in the next, maybe in the next 10 years, they could do it again, you know,
Yeah,
but
it's a farewell party to the old.
to
liner
the old liner, correct?
Where
Yeah.
dogs can come in,
Yeah.
yes.
So we bring our hamsters and our cats.
Well, you can bring your cat too. I mean,
You need a picture of.
I mean, it is, it,
When the guy was in the right?
well, I have always, personally, we have discussed doing it down at the beach too. And have a day like the and let your dogs come down to the beach. But we're just, I'm not proposing that today. I'm just.
That's not an option.
Well, it's an option. We can do it if you guys want. All I'm trying to do is just get that one day at 24.
So she caught me in a reaction. I do love dogs. So it has nothing to do with that. But typically when something like this comes to us, we have a little bit of a heads up. So you're getting a little bit
Well,
of a
to be
shock
honest,
reaction
okay,
here.
Can I say, I personally didn't even think about asking the board.
Yeah.
Right? But my community manager
Ah.
suggested that, hey, before
Thanks,
you go
Dave.
and do that,
Thanks,
you
man.
might, well, and he's right. I said, oh, okay.
Okay.
I guess I gotta ask the board for this, you know?
We got more
Well,
questions
you
for
got a
that.
question?
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, why do this just for 1 year? One time do it.
Because we'll have a new liner. You don't wanna ruin the liner. We're getting a new liner in October.
That's my point. If you're getting a new liner, what are you gonna do about all the other years?
Not do it.
Okay. That's my question.
Yeah, no, this is just until you get another new liner.
Could that be also published online on the website or on the Echoes? Specifically
Oh,
stating why we're
absolutely.
having
Yes,
this,
yes.
not counted as an every year thing.
Correct, yes, absolutely. Oh, yes, a special occasion, yes. It's not,
I think that you have to make a donation to Paul.
I would have to recuse myself from that. That's a conflict of interest since I'm their treasurer. Yeah.
and I think it would be a nice way to get people, we are trying to get more people up at the pool. We want everybody to use the pool. And
You're trying to
maybe-
get more people to the pool?
Yeah, so bring your dog. Have a good time with your doggy.
Okay. Any other questions from the floor? And then I'm just gonna provide a little bit of thought for you guys to think about. Any other questions? So this is like super loaded, so let us have you walk into our chairs for a second. So the 22 years I've been here, people like, can we have a no wake day in the lake? And so the argument has always been, you have 2 fingers that are no wake, half the lake, blah, blah, blah. And then you have people that just want a no wake, right? So we bent and we allowed one. Now we have another recommendation for Labor Day. That's the 3rd one in about 4 weeks. And there wasn't communication with Lakes, and our Lakes chair at Fox went nuts. That's an example when we do something that seems okay, people don't remember what happened a year. They just don't. Like, we're constantly struggling with communication. Like, we think we've done a great job of communication. It's in 5 different places and nobody's read any of it. So just assume they won't remember, and they're not going to know that there's another pool liner that's brand new. So it's a one-time deal. So that would be my first concern. And I do love dogs. The other problem I have, and the same thing happened with Labor Day on the lake, the conversation got started amongst a group of people. The communication didn't go to the right places. And then here we are like 2 or 3 weeks before the last holiday of the year, and we're shutting the lake down and people have already made plans. That's the stuff that we kind of deal with right or wrong. So that's,
Well, this isn't a holiday.
no, but I'm saying, but it's the last day of the pool being open.
Well, okay, or okay, how about this?
You're not trying to talk me into it. I'm
No,
just,
okay.
what I'm trying, no, bear with me. What I'm trying to do is we get criticized for everything pretty much, which is cool. It's actually kind of fun once you get used to it, kind of a sport. But this is the kind of stuff we deal with that people don't think about. Like, so I just wanted to put that out there. I don't know that I even have an opinion because I'm like kind of caught off guard, to be honest with you.
Well, and you know, I am sorry
That's just
about
me.
that. I guess I should have.
It's all right. We're talking about it now. It's a
You
business
know,
meeting.
yeah, because like I said, I wasn't even going, you know, I was like, oh, yeah, that's great, yeah, let's do that.
All right, let's do this. I'd like to hear everybody's
Yeah, I'd like
feedback
to hear.
across the board, and then if there's any, Becky, go ahead, please.
Slide 1882, I accept the wording bylaws of these nine.
Shocking.
In section 12-5-4 says pets are prohibited in swimming areas. Then it goes on to say pets are prohibited inside the POA swimming areas except for service dogs. So that's what you're.
Okay, well, then maybe the board
Thank
can make an exception, I guess is what I'm asking, for a one-time exception.
Okay, can you
I
stop
mean,
it?
can
Can
I
you-
just ask what it would hurt to do? Why it would hurt to do it?
Because here's what happens, okay? There are people in this community that love bylaws, and there's a reason for them. As soon as we move against a bylaw and make an exception, guess what? Everybody else wants it. The next,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
next,
yeah, come on, honey,
the
help me
next,
out.
the next ones are coming. So I want to finish.
Just like an exception back then. One bylaw.
Hold on a second. Hold on. One at a time, please. This is a great job, just so you know. It doesn't look like it right now, but this is a great job. Go ahead.
Didn't we just make an exception back there in a bylaw? For the working time?
Yep.
Approved it, right?
Yep.
One-time deal, right? I can't go and get, I'd have to go through the architecture process and all that, and exception, right?
Right.
To make exceptions to bylaws all the time.
Not all the time. That's an exaggeration.
Okay.
But thank you for that.
They're not the first one, right?
Okay, I heard you. Next.
So just a thought, maybe to put a little bit of a limitation on it, since I understand it is the last day of the pool and some humans might want to come and enjoy a swim without the dogs.
Yeah.
What if it's the last 2 hours of that day? The
Yeah,
final 2
no.
hours.
No, I mean, we're all for bending. We'll work with whatever the board thinks. I mean, I'm not here to, this was something that we thought, we've heard neighbors talk, we've heard residents talk. You know, let's have a pool day. Why can't we take our dog, have one day to take him down there? You're right, we haven't made that exception. The reason this was brought up is because we are getting a new liner.
You've said that. I
Okay,
got
well,
it,
I'm
I
just
got that.
trying to really shove that in.
You're trying to
you know.
sell it. All right, so here's what we're gonna do. 'Cause
I'm
we
pretty
got
happy we're getting a new liner.
one more question. Here's what we're gonna do. One more question, and then we're gonna listen to what everybody has to say, and then I'm gonna do this informal survey where we're gonna vote in this room just so we understand how people feel, because there are those that feel strongly, those that don't, and those that they're still trying to figure this out like I am. So what's your question, sir? And then we're gonna go to the board.
We don't infringe on anybody else's rights. Some people are not going to have anything to do with it, you know.
Right.
If your friend get away with something, someone cut my trees down one of my lots.
Okay.
I don't get away with that.
Let's keep it to this issue. Yep.
Stop rules.
Yep.
That's what it's about.
One more.
I just have one question. What are you gonna do about when they relieve themselves in the grass in the pool?
Well, I mean, obviously you would pick that up or whatever else, you know, I mean, you're not gonna leave it there. And typically on this dog day, they let the dogs in and I haven't seen people swim in there with them. I mean, you know, so the water's gonna be drained. Like I said, we have, they're out in Indianapolis, right? That's that liner. They're coming in October to do that. So,
Okay, let's do this. You've sold hard. I got it.
oh, I got more. If you need more.
No, I don't need any more. Thank you. Ken, your opinion? I'm just curious. Welcome to the board, brother.
No, well, I'm a dog lover as well, but
Yep.
I'm also a lover of the bylaws. And we have a dog park. You can take the dogs to the dog park. Maybe not, the pool's not the best place to take a dog.
Jeff, we're gonna let the head of paws go last. That's gonna be fun. Patrick, she's so ready. Look at her.
Oh, I'm
I'm
coiled.
gonna ask this opinion. What if we sit there and you put it out as a first read, so to speak, and then,
Well, the time will
We don't have
pass.
time. We don't have time. That's a
Yeah.
bad idea, Jeff. Next.
You're no help, man. Come
I
on.
love dogs too, but
Okay.
I don't wanna come back and bite it. I'm just saying,
No
why
pun
would that
intended.
be delayed for something of this nature? Is there an issue?
Amy said there's already too much stuff in it.
Oh, no.
Pat?
I think the intent of the bylaw is that on a day-to-day basis, you do not bring an animal into the pool unless it is a service dog. The pool liner replacement happens once every however many years. And I think it is a fitting way to say goodbye to that ratty old liner. And you're gonna clean and do everything to the pool. So I don't think there is any risk to human health. And I think it would just be something fun for people who have dogs to do. Thank you,
50th
Pat.
anniversary?
The 50th anniversary dog plunge.
Okay,
There
let me
you
ask
go.
you
We
this.
can make
though.
it happen.
I'm gonna break it. The 24th is the last day of swimming.
Yes,
So, and that's the
yes.
one that's on the calendar for the last day, right? Probably for that.
that is what we had determined. Originally, we said the 30th or maybe the 31st, that following Saturday. But I mean, whatever date you guys want.
Well, what, do you have something out there that people know, hey, this is the last day to swim?
Well, we will, yeah. I mean, this is what I'm doing. Rich is gonna put, I'll have Rich put something out.
You know,
Yeah.
that's a Saturday, so it's
Right.
a popular day. Do your dog thing on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that sounds perfect. Yeah. Closing, yeah.
Okay,
I
here we
think
go.
that's
Here we
great,
go.
Jeff.
We spent way too much. For all the dog lovers, I know you could keep going on, but we gotta move on. So let's do this. I'd like to have a first and a second and a vote to approve it.
I'll
As-
make that
as
motion.
stated. Shocking. First, Pat, second.
Yes.
Let's need a second to approve or not approve. Second, Ken's gonna do a second. Just a
I'll
motion.
make a second.
Okay, and then the vote, please. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Nay?
No.
That's 3-1.
Mm.
Now, but the dilemma was we don't have 5 board members, so it could have been 2. I think the spirit is there's gray zones on bylaws that are specific to a home. This impacts a lot of folks. Not everybody loves dogs.
Well, not everybody,
We're,
flow.
we're done.
Okay.
Thank you.
I, separate question.
And Amy, I'm gonna say this publicly. Like, we try to be professional, but thanks for nothing is not super cool. Let's stay positive. And again, we're the bad guys. So
I just don't understand why some people get approved for stuff and other people don't.
we just listened to the conversation.
Not good. For last
Yeah, Amy, we're moving on. Thank you. Okay. Let's see here. Judicial. No, sorry, safety. Bonnie, you've been waiting. All yours. Are you gonna sit?
Yes.
Would you mind facing the crowd? Would you mind doing that?
Facing who?
Just facing the crowd. So, is that okay? Is that too hard to do? I don't want to put you through too much, but I think.
Watch this.
Uh-oh, look out. Jenny.
We got to put her on wheels.
Okay,
That's impressive.
okay.
Is this on?
All
Okay,
right.
can you hear me? Okay. I'll sit back.
You're all good.
Okay.
Thank you, Bonnie. And
I'll
Jenny.
make this as brief as possible. At our last meeting, Tim Gallagher moved that SS&E request a motion to the POA board that the functions of the elections subcommittee be separated from the SS&E committee and become the basis for a new elections panel. The vote was unanimous for the separation. The reason for the request is that time does not permit safety and election topics to be fully evaluated in the same time frame. The election duties and scope will remain as they are today. Therefore, the committee is requesting this motion for separation with the full support of the elections group.
Okay,
Okay,
you want to open that for discussion?
yeah.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to open for discussion.
Okay, second? All in favor?
Up for discussion.
It's just
Yep.
for discussion.
Yeah.
Got it, my bad, my
I
bad.
need a second for
Thanks,
discussion.
Bonnie, I have a question.
Yes.
If it is removed from SSNE, where does it go?
We're thinking either as a sub panel under judicial or just as its own. If it's its own panel, we know that there'll have to be revisions to the
Oh, please, seriously.
you know, just to say that there's another panel. But
Okay.
we don't know how judicial feels about it yet.
I think we may have got an inkling of that from
Yeah.
Mr.
Okay.
from Mr. Paul back there. But it's probably more of a task force, isn't it? Since its work is confined to just a few months each year. And at the end of the election season, it goes away until the next election season starts.
As long as something doesn't come up, I mean, you know.
I mean, a task force can be reconvened at any time
Yeah.
if there is business that needs to be considered. Okay.
Jenny, what do you think?
I would be for a panel as opposed to a task force.
Okay.
What's the difference? Can you explain the difference for everybody?
I believe a task force, don't misunderstand me. I think it's a little more casual, and I don't think elections is casual.
Okay.
I think elections is important, and things need to be anonymous and private. And I don't think that happens with the task force.
Well, basically the same thing as when she brings stuff up in front of the committee, the committee members also, you know, things get out.
Okay.
That maybe shouldn't.
Okay. Understand.
George?
One of the basic differences between a task force and a panel / committee is that a task force is intended to be a temporary operation.
Yep.
It's intended to address one specific subject, and when that is completed, the task force is normally dissolved at that point. A panel and or committee is an implication of a permanent function of the POA. And this clearly would be a permanent function.
The panel.
Every year.
You're speaking to the panel? Yes,
Panel
yeah.
would be a permanent function of the POA.
Yep.
Not a temporary function.
Okay.
Wait, so the election committee is under the security and safety, so the security is our security forces that travel around the top or stuff like that.
Right.
So, okay, I'm just making sure, yeah, I think. I just want to make sure that was.
We discuss a lot during our meetings and sometimes, I mean, we just get bogged down. And our last meeting went on till almost 9 o'clock. So
And you start at what time?
6:30.
That's painful.
Thank you.
So Jenny, if you head the panel, are you still a part of the safety committee too? Or are you now off on your own?
No, I'd stay on safety if they want me. They may not want me.
So you'd have two different functions then,
Absolutely.
volunteer wise.
Absolutely.
Okay. George, did you?
The panel would be the same status as the.
Judicial.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Be at that level.
Yeah, it's super helpful. So just for clarity, because we've gone through your guys' documents, not only in this piece, but the bylaw recommendations for the board. And I think you might want to check that language because I think you referred to it as a subcommittee. So let's double check the language and make sure that what you guys have put in front of us
Sure,
is still where you're at, because I know it's probably evolved some.
sure.
Yeah, that'd be terrific. Are there any other questions on this? Sure, yes, please. Yeah.
If you vote to, approve this new panel,
Mhm.
there are other parts of the bylaws that are gonna have to be changed, because there are gonna have to be references now.
Yep.
To this being a new panel, and that's work to be done.
Yep.
After you approve or this.
Does the board have any other questions? We talked about this at length in executive session. Doug's not here, which is unfortunate. So one of the things we talked about with him being the new liaison and Bunny, he's had conversations with you back and forth. He wasn't a part of our conversation tonight. Donna was a part of conversations prior. To George's point, it's not something we just like jump at. Like, we want to table it tonight, not because we have a problem with it. We didn't understand it, to be quite honest with you. Why you were doing it. So I think you guys have helped explain that. I don't have a problem with the separation. Where it goes is another conversation that we need to think through. And at the same time, so here's our, not our dilemma, but here's what's in front of us that we're doing. Pat's working on a code of conduct for the board that we committed to do up front before anybody said anything. You guys have made recommendations on elections. You made recommendations on the bylaws for the board. We're also working inside the Lakes Committee to put more structure in place that's more black and white for committee. So there's a lot of moving parts that we're trying to pull together and make sure that we've thought through it. So I appreciate greatly the explanation, because I don't think we completely understood it. But the other thing that I want to highlight is that in the future, and we've said this, and I think Doug's tried to communicate this is relatively complex. We want to get it right. So we just want to work together, because you've got moving pieces, we've got moving pieces. And I think we probably could have already been done and gone on this if we would have just said, hey, this is what we're thinking about. What's on your guys' agenda? Here's what's on our agenda. Let's work through it, because we've got like 4 moving pieces that we think are all super beneficial, including the board bylaws and those guidelines. So that's all work in motion. We're going to table it tonight so we can loop in Doug. And Doug, I know, has put in writing the concerns that we had. I think we've addressed some of them. I don't know if we've addressed all of them. I have to take a look at the list. But what we'd like to do as a part of this process, and this kind of gets into governance, the board, and the election, because they're kind of tied together. There's already been great comments. This is a small group of people. We put a leadership council together for a specific reason. Mr. Paul, you're not even aware of this, so that's a problem. And this is what we get into sometimes, is like people are doing work in a vacuum, and we're trying to collaborate more to make sure we think through it, even if it takes us longer. So we'll table it tonight. We'll get Doug in the loop. We'll see where we stand. But what we wanted to do is the next leadership council meeting, not only the election piece, but the bylaws. The bylaw issue that we have is, where does that belong? Is that really, is it like all the work that's been done is all great? It's a great start. We have our thoughts. We talked about tonight. There's a governance piece that makes sense. But there's a right way to do it. Probably, we're not exactly sure what that is. There's still volunteer positions. And when you start opening up impeachment wording for a volunteer board member, good luck filling these chairs. So there's a lot to be thought through. Now, one of our proposals is, if you guys want to make this a paid position, then let's bring on impeachment. That's cool. That was a joke. But it's relatively complex, and we just want to make sure we get it right. So that's where we're at for tonight. We'll continue to work together to work through language. And George, your comments on bylaws, thank you for that. There's a lot of coordination that needs to take place. We don't need to be in a hurry. So we want to do it right.
Okay, I just wanted to say that was going to be my next.
I understand. I'm just trying to move the time along.
I know. I just want to let you know that the committee has agreed to drop the term limits section, the 2 things about term limits, because you were already working on them.
Yeah.
And the other, and we thought about revising the whole rest of it. Because in 1995, it was all of the descriptions of the board was written out and was totally revised. And then all of a sudden, they got dropped off out of our bylaws. And so we thought if we took the 1995 version, excuse me, and updated them according to present technology, like attendance at a meeting. Well, back then, they didn't have Zoom and cell phones, etc. So now we can be more lenient and we can add these things in and then present it. Now, if you want us to work with Pat, if that's something that you are addressing also,
We'd like you to work with Doug.
does Doug work with Pat then?
Yeah, we're all board members. There's a reason there's a liaison position because we can't all touch the subjects. We all talk and are aligned and trying to serve the community. But I'm going to be pretty direct here. Like, we want to collaborate, right? We purposely tabled this the first time because when we saw the language, there's a lot of work to do. You brought up turbulence. There's a lot of language in here that's pretty doggone close. That we don't have this big resistance. We really don't. Turbulence is something that I ran on, Steve Savell ran on, your husband ran on, and they're still not done. So we have some motivation to get stuff like that done because I think folks will agree. We just want to collaborate.
Right. And
That's it.
Bonnie, yes, excuse me, Scott, Bonnie, what I'm working on is how are board members allowed to behave, how they conduct themselves with each other, how they conduct themselves with the community. What is our Facebook policy? What is a conflict of interest? Where do board members have to recuse themselves if there's business before the board that involves a family member or a friend? That is more what I am working on, and I'm just shamelessly reapplying all my years of P&G to this, quite honestly. So there may be some overlap, but I think you're working on something different than I'm working on.
Have you seen the revision?
Yes.
Of 1995?
Yes.
Okay. Are you working on?
I am not doing anything specific on that now, no. But I will be happy to touch base with Doug and you keep him in the loop and the three of us can work together on that.
Okay. One more question, then we need to move on. George, please.
This isn't the discussion about the man. We're on a whole different.
Right. Understand.
Well, no, there's one motion and that's for Jenny to establish a panel for elections. This
There's
is
not
just,
another
I'm
motion.
talking about the discussions, only one motion.
Correct. Yeah, what Scott was referring to was another document that has been put forth by SSNE has some language around things that include impeachment of a board member. Yeah, it was just.
Now, I was just trying to share all the things that are in motion, why collaboration's a cool thing. Like, let's put our ideas up on the table, work together. But the sheer fact, and then we'll move on, we're pulling language from 27 years ago is kind of interesting. So I think there'll be a spirit of assessing today and what we've learned over time. I would like to understand why it got dropped 27 years ago. It may have been a good idea. I don't know. But we definitely want to address today. Okay. All right. Any other report, Bonnie?
I was just going to tell you the other topics that we were involved with the last meeting. The unnecessary stop signs that we identified, the deputy's report improvement, gates versus cameras at our access points for security. Cameras was the preferred method. Crystal Lake water contamination, ball field drinking fountain, animal control rules, and the time capsule and the new app, See Click Fix. And then finally the meeting ended.
2.5 hours later.
Yeah.
Amy?
Yes.
Water fountain is fixed, it's running.
Good. Very good.
Okay. Mr. Paul. Thank you, Bonnie. Thank you,
Thank you.
Jenny, and the clarity.
No, we gotta turn Bonnie back around.
Don't lose her.
You do it seamlessly.
This was the citation issued. Looked done, 5/15/22. The appeal was
Thank you,
heard
sir.
by the judicial panel. 6/13.
Thank you, Jamie.
Judicial panel voted. Not this court. It's your turn.
Okay, first of all, let me,
Well, let,
oh, okay.
Mr. O'Neill first speak.
So this is my first time at one of these meetings. I hope you feel this long. So
Are you gonna come back? Just curious.
put it in writing. In case you want to, you wanted me to read it if there's an issue afterwards. But I could read through it, or I could just go through the highlights because it's go much longer. So basically, I own a boat. Been here for a while. Never had an issue. I don't own a trailer with it, but I only like the boat. Jackson Marine picks it up at the end of the year, winterizes it, brings it back in the spring. Okay? So we had a lot of personal issues going on. My father-in-law, for one, and he dropped it. Jackson Marine dropped it off in the lake while we weren't around. Father-in-law was terminally ill, so we were working with, I was spending my attention there with him and my wife's family rather than focusing on the boat. So the boat sat there for a few weeks with no stickers. But I bought the stickers a month or a couple months in advance. And we spent a lot of time today talking about bylaws. Right? I actually read them. And there's actually in the intro, it talks about, in order to, the intro, sorry, it says about like how the POA, officers or whatnot will follow the rules within the bylaws when it comes to citations, right? They further outline what a citation is on 3.3.1, right? To do this, they must educate, warn, and cite. Further down in 3.3.3, right, it says the purpose of the conduct to educate, because they outline what educate is the member that the rule has been broken and to seek the member's compliance with the broken rule. They then go on to talk about warn. Right, the POA member is still not corrected. Again, this is after the education. Within 2 weeks, they come back with a warning. We then go on to the cite, right, which is if they haven't corrected 2 weeks after it's been cited, you then get a citation. My issue is the warning was written in a book that I think sits in the patrol boat. How am I supposed to know that as a POA resident? And I just got a citation. Really just frustrated.
Can you say that again, please?
I was told that the Lake Patrol folks wrote my warning in a black book that gets passed around from patrol member to patrol member, and I should have known I got a warning. I don't understand that. It doesn't make logical sense to me.
Okay.
And so I think I shouldn't have got a citation. I should have got an education. But if I didn't do the education, I should have got a warning. If I didn't do the warning, I should have got a citation. We just spent a lot of time talking about the values of the bylaws for us residents to follow. The same thing goes for the POA officers. That's basically, you can read it, but
okay.
I did look this, and a lot of people are frustrated with this in the community, not just.
If you get a speeding citation, you may or may not get a warning when you're speeding here in the valley.
Oh, the bylaws.
That's at the of the officer who files the citation.
I won't agree with that, but we should change the bylaws, because that's not what it currently says.
So the bylaws
It
are
doesn't say
fine.
will, might, maybe. If they think about it, it says they will follow this procedure.
Not if it's a speeding.
It doesn't say
Not
that.
if it's a lake patrol violation.
It doesn't say that.
I think we should keep this confined to the issue, and that's the sticker, right?
Okay.
So can you go
Can I
ahead?
ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead. Sure.
Okay, Jamie, you said you purchased your stickers for all your paddle boards, kayaks, boat stickers on March the 25th.
Yes, for my credit card statement.
All right, when was this warning and the citation issued?
Citation was issued 5/15.
May 15th.
And, but you did purchase stickers on March the 25th, and you have a record of that.
Yes, the credit card statement.
All right. They just hadn't been applied to the boat,
Correct.
but you did have it. All right.
I didn't have possession of the boat when I got the stickers.
I think we should hear from Will now.
All right, first of all, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Will Dunham, not Dunn, and I've been doing lake patrol for 6 years. Several times, there's only 2 lake patrol people right now, myself and Wayne Drafin. And believe me, we're kept pretty busy. I first observed this boat several times, and so did Wayne, and each time we recorded that the boat was sitting at the marina in plain sight with no current sticker. On approximately May the 6th, I saw a woman drive this boat away from the dock. I hollered at her. I says, "Ma'am, you have an expired sticker." "Oh, I've got them at home." Well, that's the favorite excuse of everybody on the lake. My question is, why does it take all this time to put a sticker on a boat if you already have it? So anyhow, this ticket, Wayne and I discussed it many times. And Wayne says, "Well, you know, we issued a verbal warning to the woman driving the boat." Now, I don't know if it was his wife or who it was, but the owner is responsible. And the laws of the lake say you have to have a current updated sticker to be on the water, which it did not. So Wayne called me after the last judicial meeting and told me what all was said. And I says, "That sticker number sounds familiar." I says, "Let me check on that." And when I checked, here's the thing. Wayne and I discussed this many times. And Wayne says, "Will you write that ticket, but put my name on it?" Which I did. I signed it, Wayne. Now, if you want to verify my signature and my printing with this ticket, it'll prove that I wrote the citation, not Wayne. And anyhow, after the first judicial meeting, when I talked to Wayne about this and was aware that they was going to contest it, I said, "Well, let me double check, make sure I got the right boat." So I called Mr. Wisman here. And I says, "Dave," I says, "let me check this boat out." I says, on the back was written "The Miracle." I went down the next day. I checked it. Sure enough, it was same boat, same sticker. And I sent a picture of that to Wayne for the next meeting. Well, Wayne's not here tonight. Mr. Paul, I was here from Paul office only. Mr. Paul asked me to stay. And here's something that, well, I got my phone off now, but I took a picture of that boat with the expired sticker way back on the very next morning on May the 16th at the suggestion of Brenda Daniels and Alicia, just because we had a feeling that this was going to happen. And I've got pictures of the boat, pictures of the sticker, and there was also a paddleboard on the side of the boat that had an expired sticker as well. But the thing is, I hadn't seen it in the water, so I can't write a citation for that. If I'd have seen it in the water, I would have. The point being, I know it's been in the water, but I didn't see it, so I couldn't write a ticket for that.
Ticket
But
or a warning? What would you have done in that scenario had you seen the paddleboard?
I would have written a ticket because it had an expired sticker as well. But I can show you the picture right here as soon as I pull my phone up. I had an embarrassing.
I'm openly saying it was on the boat, on the water, through that window. I'm not questioning that. I have questions like my wife has a chronic illness. She's never driven a boat in her life. And my daughter's 13, so I'm not.
Well,
sure.
some woman was in that boat because I hollered at her and I told her she had an expired sticker and she said they're at home. But the bottom line, I've got pictures right here to prove everything I said. And, you know, we got rules. I've been told by several people that I'm far too patient. I give people too many warnings, too many
That's a warning.
But right here's the picture of that boat and that sticker.
Okay, I don't need to see the picture.
And I told Wayne, I said, I'll go ahead and put your name on this. I got some others. I don't like to write them. I don't know what these fines are. I don't care. The bottom line is, I know money's hard to come by, and that's why I give people far more warnings than I need to. But I've already told Dave Wisman, and Wayne told him the same thing. Next year, we start a new policy. One warning, I don't care if it's May the 2nd, if stickers have to be on May 1st, come May 2nd.
Let's do this. We're not addressing next year. Let's deal with this issue. We're short on time. Any questions from the board?
I have a question. I know for property maintenance, whoever the property that's out of compliance is, gets they're educated, they get a written warning, and then they are cited. But all we have for the lake is a little black book. We do not give the person who we are warning any
He put it in the book
document.
because he gave a verbal warning. In his mind, he gave a verbal warning. That's what we've asked them to do this year.
Right.
Normally, they would give verbal warnings, and there was no record of those. So we asked a little better control of that. There's a misconception about this warning. This is more of the education piece, that kind of thing. It's a philosophy. It doesn't apply to everything, just like Dr. Paul started to allude to. There are certain things, there's officer discretion, lake patrol discretion, but you wouldn't expect someone who's driving 50 miles an hour down, along the side of the lake, outside of the buoys, you wouldn't expect them to give warning for that time.
No, that is risky behavior. But my point in this is that Lake Patrol says they warned. This gentleman says he has no proof of that. Would it not protect our Lake Patrol to have something? I hate to cut down any more trees for this, but wouldn't it be for their protection to give something in paper to this person for something like a sticker, which is not endangering anybody's life? It's just a matter of complying with the date to have the stickers on your boat.
But there's also a time thing. You say a warning, you're given a warning when you're given the boat education course. You're given a warning when you go through this whole process. When you're supposed to have the stickers on your boat. Is that correct? I mean, you've done this for many years.
So two things that I could say. When we met with the judicial committee, nobody talked about some female driving this boat. And our bylaws that we just talked about, we spent a lot of time in this room today. Spent a lot of time talking about the reality of the bylaws and sticking with what they are. A lot of emotions in the room over it. And for the officers to just really change it when they feel like it makes sense, really frustrating me as a president.
I don't see your willingness. You're saying they didn't give you a warning, and their understanding was they gave a verbal warning. They wrote it in a book. They didn't write it in the book just to not give it to you. It's their understanding, whether it's a mistake or whatever. I don't know. If it was your wife or some other woman that there's a room for that.
No, that's true. So the bylaws say something differently than what you're saying. And as a resident, I'm going by the bylaws. The bylaws say if the officer of the POA sees a resident doing something wrong, they need to educate them, right?
That is a philosophy.
And that's not what it says in here, right? And then they say they would warn you after 2 weeks, and then they would cite you after 2 weeks.
It is a philosophy, mainly.
So are the boat stickers a philosophy? When do we choose what a philosophy is, and when is the bylaws of the bylaws?
To add to this, when you take your boat test every year and you're handed out this laminated boat rules, and it might even be on the boat test, it stipulates you have to have a current sticker to be on the water prior to launching any kind of watercraft. I don't care if it's a paddle board, a canoe, a kayak, or what it is. And it's a violation right there. And I don't have anything else to add to it.
Everybody in the Mid Valley who has bought land or a house has agreed to the bylaws. So you can't say because you bought a house, you understand all the bylaws. The bylaws state, even though they expect you to read it beforehand, the purpose is to educate, warn, and cite. The purpose of the bylaws is not to just be harsh on our residents. It's to help get a good community going.
It's really any different than vehicle registration for your cars. If you get pulled over and April 1st is the expiration, right?
Yeah, but because of that, yeah, but if you have your stickers, and if you go to court, they will say, oh, I mean, they do, you know. You gotta go to court right now.
So Dave, my question for you and for the board is, do we want to follow the bylaws, which I would think we would, or do we want to follow another process and they don't align? That's the part that's disturbing. If we don't want, I think the argument here is, and I hear both arguments. The argument here is there's a different process going on in the bylaws, right? Is that true or not?
I don't understand.
Like, I don't have the bylaws in front of me. Okay.
God bless.
Please, so do it. So Becky, you guys want to share anything? No? Okay. Becky, if you'd read it, that'd be terrific. Jenny, George, do you know off the top of your head what area it would be in that we could read it? I just want to.
It's in lakes section. Sure what numbers they are.
I know what the citations are. It's 3-3-1.
There you go.
And 3-3-3 outlines what the process is.
That's
I actually gave a copy of all of them.
That's.
They actually have it. in front of them.
Section 3 is rules and procedures.
Yeah,
Is that what you want? Or do you want
It's in
something
the
for
lake,
lakes?
it's in the lake section, whatever that is.
And I apologize to everybody that we're dragging this out, but there's a reason. So we either use bylaws or we don't, and when we think that something's gone wrong, we need to address it. From enforcement, you've had questions about why would you not just tag them so there's no doubt that they've been warned. Like we hear this stuff every single week. I get complaints from people when we go after people that haven't put tags on a kayak that's sitting in their property and they haven't even been on the water yet. So it is relatively complex. So.
Yeah, well, I will say something. If you can, this, I'm not even, I was looking at this for a different reason, but honestly, if you sit and read these bylaws, they really make a lot of sense, but it takes a patient person to read through everything and understand it. And I think
Yeah.
maybe a lot of people just don't take the time.
Well,
I mean, I know when you come in.
Okay. Okay, George, will you go ahead? I'm sorry. Can you go ahead and read this in so we can wrap this up? George, please. Thank you.
Yeah, the section on watercraft is 7.7 is the general section on watercraft registration rules.
Yep.
And in specific, 7-7-6 is the rule about the stickers, Scott.
Yep.
And it clearly says they must, a current sticker must be displayed in order to put a boat on the lake. So that's 7-7-6.
Yep.
And I guess the only question is, was the person familiar with that rule? Because it is also on that registration form that's sent out when you apply for a boat sticker.
But it doesn't say anything in there that in the water, George, does it say anything in there that the water lake patrol doesn't abide by the procedures outlined in 3-3?
No, it simply says the requirement for putting a watercraft on the lake. that have
Great.
valid stickers.
Thank you, sir.
And that is, covered in a lot of areas.
Yep, I agree.
Question is, in my mind, it was not a question of was the rule violated. We know that. It's a question when Dave Wisdom said, yes, the judicial panel has a purpose to educate. That would be behind it. But if somebody clearly violates a rule, if you're speeding 30 miles an hour in the ball field or near the swimming pool, you don't get someone saying, I'm going to educate you and give you a warning.
Why not?
That is egregious.
Why not?
That is egregious and it's dangerous. And this business of education is, as Wisman says, is a overriding sort of philosophy of how the judicial panel behaves. But it doesn't apply to egregious violations. And I think that was done about. You were warned, a verbal warning.
But no documentation other than a book that he doesn't see what's his issue. I'm just playing both sides. Like if you get stopped in the valley for speeding, you may get cited or you may get a warning.
Were you given a verbal
Right.
warning?
I was not. That's his whole contention. So now it's he
Well,
said, she said, and if I read the rules, that's what makes this
Well,
not fun for anybody.
The bylaw 3-3-3, it says a person authorized by these bylaws to issue a notice of violation will make contact with the POA member alleged to be in violation of the rule. If that,
What's the context of that?
yeah. What's the context?
Three, what's that section?
Steps involved in issuing a citation.
Dave, I think that is more architecture specific.
What I'm
It is the only part in the bylaw that talk about a citation, is in that section.
But the thing I get, I understand the stickers weren't on the boat. It had been dropped by Jackson Marine, dropped it in the lake. I'm just thinking they had purchased the sticker for the boat and all their other items 2 months prior to the citation being issued. So if you came up and you bought your stickers and you paid your fees for those stickers and the boat got dropped in the lake by Jackson, I don't.
So, what do you guys on the section 3? Now, section 3 just has to do with general judicial practices. It doesn't apply to any specific area.
That's our dilemma in this community, guys.
But that's,
I mean-
residents former reading, that's,
There are areas that are very clear. There are areas that are not. And that's our challenge moving forward is how do we get to a point where we don't get into these conversations and it's pretty clear. You guys have any other comments? We need to
George,
move on.
maybe I want a question. 3.3 area, is that more involved? Is that more in the architectural area?
It's just judicial in general, yeah.
3.3 says violation numbers.
3.0 is rules and regulations.
My concern.
Oh, hold on. Yeah, let's do this. I wanted to have one more comment from you, please. One more comment from the resident, and then see if the board's got any other questions, and then we need to make a decision to move on. We've spent more time on this. This is what drives me crazy as a resident. We've spent more time on a sticker on a boat than almost any other subject for the last hour and a half, except dogs. Dogs and stickers is the hot one tonight. Guys,
A major concern is if you're doing 50 miles an hour driving in the valley, somebody's gonna come here and say, I didn't get a warning. I've got to wait for the warning because it says according to this, you're gonna give me a warning. And then 2 weeks later, you're gonna come talk to me. That doesn't apply.
but it's everybody that takes the time to read 165 pages understand that. I think that's our challenge.
Everybody's gonna know that.
I'm just saying.
Next time, they are.
Yeah. Okay, let's do this. Any other comments? And then we're gonna go to the board and we're gonna move on.
I think like you said,
You're good?
to death, like Clearly,
Okay.
we're trying to get around paying for my stickers.
Ken, you have any other questions?
No, my was just thing was they bought stickers two
Don't
months
restate, you
prior.
got it.
was all, yeah.
Yep, okay, got it. Jeff? You good, Pat? Okay, so, would anybody like to make a motion and a second to uphold the fine as written? And we'll vote. All in
Is the
favor?
motion to uphold the fine, or is it this gentleman's motion to have it set aside?
The motion's to get moved to set aside.
Okay, okay.
So that, Pat, you gonna put the motion in as that then? The motion to set it aside?
Yes, that was,
Oh,
it's already
great,
there.
great, great,
We
great.
have to vote as to whether to remove.
Got it, got it.
Mhm.
We gotta make a motion to vote on.
Yes, we
You
do.
just made, so we need a motion and I need a second, then
I'll
we'll vote.
second it.
The second, all in favor of eliminating it? I'm not sure the right word. What's the word that you want for the language, Pat?
Set aside the fine recommended by judicial.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, all in favor of that?
Aye.
Okay.
Aye. Yes or no?
No.
No? You're a nay, Pat?
Nay.
Okay, so we're 2-2 without a fifth board member. We will push this to the next meeting. In the meantime, I think we have proven in this exercise, we've got some work to do. I mean, in fairness to any homeowner that doesn't live with all this, hasn't written, hasn't studied it, it is not always easy when you see it talked about clearly in one area, maybe talked about in another area. But I think the key piece that I want you to walk away with, because we're not done, if you buy the stickers and you know you have to have stickers, this never had to happen, just put them on. Like,
And you have the vote back to storage.
okay, but so you know you have to have them, right? I've had help from marinas. There's lots of people. You find out when they're putting the boat in, you meet them, get the sticker on it, or you get it to them in advance. I think the argument of Lake Patrol and judicial is we all know we have to have stickers, right? I mean, so we've got work to do in language. We have work to do in lots of language. So we've learned a lot, but it's going to push to the next meeting. Pat, can you help? Jeff, can you help? Does he need to come back? I mean, we already know the issue.
I don't think you need to, sir. It's just going to be, if you have anything else you want us to consider in the interim, you can make that available to us. But I don't think
Yep.
we need to take another evening of your time.
Yep, George and Becky, thank you for the help on we're gonna need to get a copy up here. Digitally, we can just pop it up on the screen. All right, any old business? Any new business?
I have a couple lots.
You need to, for the record, you need to state your name and lot number, please. Thank you.
My name is William Perkins, my lot's 15, 21, and 22.
Okay.
Dave Tester here?
No, Dan Tester.
Danny Tester.
Yeah, he's a nice fellow, and I don't have a problem with him. Or anybody else here. I have a lot, a contractor from the lady next door. He had scraped off the rubbish on the lawn and dumped it on my empty lot.
Okay.
You know, and it's a pile of rubbish. And I talked to Mr. Tester about that, and he told her to move it. First I talked to her and she said she wasn't going to move it.
Okay.
You know, and it was a contractor that did that, so he gave her a warning and gave her another warning. It's been 5 years. And she still hasn't removed it.
Okay.
And she told me she would, and she told him she would, you know, and this is, you know, I looked up the bylaw on this, it's very easy.
Let's do it. Just don't go there again. We got it. No, like I'm serious. Give me your lot number again. We'll follow up with Dan that you can't put rubbish on somebody else's property.
She's been verbally warned, I asked her to move it.
Yeah.
She
Got it. Give me your lot number again, please.
The lot is 15.
15. Okay.
Another issue.
So that's the first issue. We'll follow up for you on that with Dan. Thank you.
Okay, there's a fellow next to me, he inherited a lot, and he had put a bunch of wood chips. I called him up and I asked you know, having removed this a couple of years ago, and I still haven't been removed. He put a pile of wood chips. You know, people think it's my lot, they think I'm the one that's leaving it.
Okay.
Right next to my house, that's lot 20. You know, big pile of chips.
Did you talk to Dan about those chips?
Well, I didn't, you know, I talked to somebody a couple years ago, and, you know, that's never happened, but that's why I'm here today, you know, I'm leaving in a couple days, you know, I don't live here. And I got a house here, but I spend part of the time someplace else. So I don't, you know, I wanna make sure it's taken care of.
Okay.
And I've been trying to work on this lot, I got a bunch of dead trees, I've been cutting them down.
Got it.
You know, work on it for the past 5 years, and it's a mess, but I don't need somebody else dumping a bunch of rubbish on there.
Got it. So lot 15 and lot 20 are the two
Right.
that are affected.
Right.
Okay. Ms. Perkins, we will follow up. Do we have contact information, Dave, for Mr. Perkins, so we can, are you gonna be gone for an extended period of time?
A few months.
Okay, that's extended. Yeah.
That's why, you know, I'm afraid that, you know, it won't be cleaned up, you know, and then I'll come back 2 months later, you know, and I say, why did it take so long?
Got it. Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. We'll work on that for you while you're gone. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, everybody.